Hey YouTube, Repo Man 64. Got to shave. You ever get to the point where you're like waiting and waiting, just kind of putting stuff off because you think this is it, it's going to happen, and then we just keep waiting. Um, I've been working on this timeline for quite some time, and I've had a few good questions. And my my problem is that if you use Google, just go into Google and Google any one of the seven feasts that God spoke of. I think it's in Leviticus. Um, he spoke of these seven feasts. And I see a lot of comments that say he's not going to come back on a feast day. I think you might be right. He's not going to come back on a day where the Jews will be watching. This event is for the Gentile, the rapture of the bride. It's a Gentile bride. And the thing that gets me is I go through Google and look at the dates that they are using for the seven feasts. They move around. You have a calendar. There are 365 days in that calendar. If you want to use 364 days, you can do that. But it's linear. There's the first day, and then you go on forward to the second month, the third month, the fourth month, and the fifth month. And when the Bible says the words Nisan 14, we go back to when the first day is and count forward 14 days. It's that simple. When Jesus dies on the cross and we go 3 days, we know it's Nisan 17. He doesn't specifically say it in the Bible, but we know that he went to the grave for 3 days. We know that God told Noah to get into the ark 7 days in advance, and then it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, which is one of the reasons that I believe that you'll find when you read the story of Jesus that when he rose, he told Mary, "Do not touch me, for I have not ascended unto the Father yet." Most people will assume that he ascended to the Father and came right back down and walked with man for 40 days, and he did not. He ascended to heaven for 7 days, received his new body, and the next conversation we have about Jesus is with Thomas in the upper room. If Jesus were there for those 7 days, they would not have been in that upper room with the doors locked, worried about the officials coming to get them. They would have been with Jesus. So the 40-day count did not begin until after Jesus meets Thomas in the upper room. Then he walked with them for 40 days, and it's a simple count. It's a simple count. You just add 40 days onto when you believe the first day of the year is, and you come to a number. If you say Nisan 14 and you count forward 40 days, you got the 3 days Jesus resurrected. You got the 7 days until Thomas in the upper room, and then you have the 40 days that Jesus walked with man and ascended, and you wind up. And if you can figure out which calendar to use, and you decide to use a particular calendar, and you line that up and you simply count forward, Sivan 3 is the day Jesus ascended. And the calendar we're using is the fifth calendar. And the reason we're using the first sliver of the moon in Aries is because the blood moon could have landed anywhere. Literally could have landed on any day that wasn't any one of these 5 calendars, but it didn't. And then, for even more proof, you go to Daniel 10:4, and there is a discussion in there, and in the discussion, there is a conversation about 3 weeks, and it is mentioned 3 times, and the date that the Bible gives, because it gives a perfect date, of Nisan 24, it could have been any date. Could have been any date, but it wasn't. It was Nisan 24 that Daniel 4 talks about. And Nisan 24 is the date that Jesus meets Thomas in the upper room. So when we do a 21-day count, which I'll go to the timeline here in a moment, when we do a 21-day count and we use the fifth line, and the reason we're using the fifth line is because, in fact, the blood moon did land on the fifth line on May 16th. That's fact. And that falls on Nisan 14 if you begin the year on May the 2nd, 3rd. Another thing I noticed as I finished this and I'm doing the math between the first calendar, the Enoch timeline, which is the one, my favorite one, because it never changes, it never moves. And the last one, the timeline number 5, it's 47 days. So I have a confirmation there in those 47 days. There was an event, a solar eclipse. This happened on the first day of the year. It didn't happen Nisan 1. The Jews are calling before Nisan 1, which is May 2nd. They're calling it a previous time, but if you count 15 days, you get to the blood moon, which does land on May 16th. And then if you count 15 more days, remember the star event where the stars fall from the sky. Nothing lands on that date. Nothing, it just falls randomly, but it was really a big no event. But if you go another 15 days, second Passover, in fact, does land on June 15th, which is why I was very interested in George, the Return of the King's June 15th date, because second Passover does land there. Now, again, when you use the Daniel 4 count, it could have landed 18 days. It could have landed, the Sivan 3 is when it happened, when he ascended, July 5th. If you use any other day, it's just tying too well together. You can't make it happen. It just, I don't care about where it. I wanted the Enoch timeline. I wanted timeline number 1 to work, but it doesn't. But it is a solid date for the first of the year, Enoch. It never changes every single year. It's always March 17th. What I found incredible, again, was that from the first calendar to the last calendar, it's 47 days. The same amount of time Jesus rises, spends 7 days getting his new body and returning to Thomas in the upper room and walking with man for 40 days. 47 days. The same amount of days, 7 days he was locked in the ark, and then it rained for 40 days. The same time that Jacob, Rachel, and Leah, the father said, give her 7 days. Those 7 days are very important. They're repeated throughout the Bible, the 7 feasts, the 7 famine. There's so much sevens in there. You can't make it. You can't make this happen. What I've discovered. The next thing that I discovered is I went ahead and looked at next year. Now the Creator's calendar uses the full moon as the first of the year, and the first sliver in Aries obviously uses the first sliver of the moon. Next year they switch places. Next year, the Creator's calendar will be timeline number 5, and the sliver of the moon in Aries will be timeline number 4. It'll switch places. I haven't done the math on if it was 47 days as well, but I thought that was pretty cool how March 17th is unmovable, but all these other calendars will fall in line, and the final calendar will be right at 47 days. So let me get into the photos that I've taken throughout since my last video. Let's see here. I did that wrong. Where's the timeline? Let me put on my glasses because I can't see. And the timeline disappeared. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Okay, I must have a lot of stuff in there to talk about. Whoops. All right, back over here. Nisan 1 must fall on one of these days. It must fall. There's no wiggle room to go back and forth. The equinox, in fact, happens every year on March 16th. The first day of the year, every single year, is March 17th. The equinox, we all know it. We all love it. It happens every single year on either March 20th or March 21st. This year was March 20th, so the first day of the year is March 21st, or something to that effect. This year, the first sliver of the moon after the equinox was April the 3rd. This is the calendar the Jews are using. They are 1 month too early. They are not using April 3rd either, by the way. They're using April 1st as the first day, which is the reason they did that was to line up Passover on a Saturday. They wanted it to land on a Saturday, so they moved the first day of the year. Instead of respecting the sun, moon, and stars, and the first sliver of the moon after the equinox on April the 3rd, they moved it to April the 1st so that they could force Passover to land on a pagan day of Saturday. And they will do this throughout the year, and it will never be the events, the feasts, the seven feasts, the Moedims that the Jews are supposed to watch and perform or be a part of will always be wrong because they are trying to force it to be on a pagan named day of Saturday. Saturday is just a day that the pagans named a day. It's actually supposed to be on the 14th day of the month, period. And if the first day of the month for you is the first sliver of the moon after the equinox, April the 3rd, you go forward 14 days, add 14 to April the 3rd. It's that simple. April the 17th is when the Passover should happen, but it doesn't. They're off because they've used April the 1st. And then you have the Creator's calendar. The unique thing about the Creator's calendar is they use the full moon instead of the new moon, the first sliver of the moon. They use a full moon to represent their first day after the equinox. And that happens, as you can see, 14 days later. The moon will always be 14 days away from the first sliver. And the Creator's calendar uses April the 17th. And then finally, we have the first sliver of the moon after the sun is in Aries, which is in fact spoken of in Leviticus. Now, the reason I never liked it or didn't want to look at it was because the sun has moved 30 days out of place in the last 2,000 years. It now is in Pisces. On that first spin of Pisces is when it depends obviously on the new moon. So it should be the first sliver of the moon after the sun reaches Pisces now, but the Bible doesn't really say that, and I agree because it does say Aries, so we would have to go with what the Bible says. God, obviously, he is the Creator, would have known that the man on the long journey would have been out of town for those 30 days. So the event would have been pushed 30 days, but the beginning is still in Aries. So let's go forward on the timeline. If Nisan 1 is in fact the first of the year, which it was given to Moses, it is. And whichever one of these 5 calendars we use, as you can see, 1 through 5 represents each one of those calendars. And I cannot find another calendar that has any credence. A lot of people, like I said, will Google. They will Google what the first day of the year is, and you will inevitably find it says April the 1st. It literally, their first sliver of the moon was not spotted until April the 3rd, so that Google is absolutely wrong. I need a clear calendar. And people are like, you need to use the Essene calendar. That is the line 1. That's just the Essene calendar. If somebody can bring me a legitimate calendar, I will add it to it. But as far as I know, these are the 5 calendars. The 3, 4, and 5 will change by perhaps 2 weeks every single year. They'll jumble around 2 weeks. Lines 1 will never move, and line 2 will move between March 20th and March 21st, depending on when the sun crosses over the equator. The equinox is when that 4th star of Pegasus skirts along the horizon. So let's just start counting. And it's simple. And the reason I know it's accurate, like I said, because line 1 and line 5, there is a 47-day difference on Nisan 1. If there is not a 47-day difference as we go through from, let's say, from Jesus on the cross, we have March 30th and May 16th. There is a 47-day difference, so I am accurate as to the correct date. So we can trust God when he says Nisan 1. We just can't trust man to know which calendar to use. So we have to obviously trust in God to try to figure out which calendar to use. And as far as I know, these are the only 5 calendars. Jesus on the cross, Nisan 14. We all know it. We all love it. It is the 14th day of the first month, Passover. May 16th is when we had the blood moon. So I personally now am leaning towards the line number 5 as being accurate. 30 days later, 15 days later, the stars fall, and then 15 days later, perfect, lands on Passover perfectly. So for me, you have the blood moon 15 days, and then the stars fall 15 days, and then second Passover 15 days. So for me, the fifth timeline is the one that we should be using. We all know Jesus rose 3 days later. And it doesn't specifically say this in the Bible, but it's simple math. 3 days added to Nisan 14 will be Nisan 17. You go down and add 3 days to May 16th, and it's May 19th. Nisan 24 is spoken of in the Bible in Daniel 4, and in there, there's 3 references to 3 weeks. I just, out of a whim, decided, well, let me count from Daniel 4 back 21 days. Where does it land? It lands on Mary and Martha's cleansing ceremony, which is 3 days after they touched Lazarus, the dead body. It fell on something, and that's my point, is it keeps falling on something. It could have fell anywhere, but it fell there perfectly. You go forward 21 days from Thomas in the upper room, and you land on IR 14. And that was second Passover. And that's why I was so looking at June 15th myself. It's because that is IR 14th. And we know IR 14th is correct because second Passover is 30 days after Jesus goes to the cross on Nisan 14. Add 30 days to that, and you land on IR 14. That's 30 days. And what date is that? June 15th. And it is also the 3 weeks after in Daniel 4 mentions Nisan 24. It's 21 days. So I took it upon myself to add another 21 days just out of curiosity from second Passover, and guess where it lands? Jesus ascends. Daniel 4 is a very good description of a rapture event. Go read it for yourself. You'll see all the rapture clues that are in Daniel 4. Also, again, Jesus dies on the cross. 3 days later, he rises on Nisan 17. 7 days later, he does meet Thomas in the upper room on Nisan 24. 40 days he walks with man, and he ascends on Sivan 3. You can do the math easily. 21 days after IR 14, lands perfectly on Sivan 3, which is July the 5th, if we're using the 5th timeline, the 5th calendar. I worked on Pentecost. It had been bugging me, and I heard a very good YouTube video from Gevti, and he references. I watched Dr. Barrial, but I didn't quite grasp what he was saying. But Gevti put it into a language that I could understand, and the word Pentecost simply means 50. And each feast day after this, I think it was wheat or grain, and then you have oil, and then something else. But each 50 days is a harvest. But Shavuot is a Pentecost. And the reason it's a Pentecost is because, and Jesus came to fulfill, not to abolish, not to destroy, but to fulfill the law. Jesus went to the cross, and he rose 3 days later, which we know he did. And if 7 days later he met Thomas in the upper room, which we know he did, then walked with man for 40 days, which we also know he did, then that means he did ascend on Sivan 3. You can do the math from the first calendar to the last calendar, make sure it's 47 days. I might have made a mathematical error by 1 day, I don't know, but I haven't actually checked that one out, checked out many others. But at any rate, July 5th in Israel will be July 4th here. And I do recall last year people were saying July 4th is a very important day. And I didn't know why then until I did this with all 5 calendars. So in the Bible it talks about he'll come on a day and an hour when we least expect. Now, he's not talking to us. He's talking to the sleepy church. The sleepy church, the Jew, would expect Jesus to come on a feast day. Jesus could come when we thought so, when he went to the cross, or when he rises, or when second Passover. These are all the wave offering. These are all um, in the Old Testament. The second Passover is in the Old Testament. Shavuot, Pentecost is in the Old Testament. The one event here that is not found in the Old Testament is the day Jesus ascends in front of everybody. Sivan 3, July 5th. I know, July 5th. I don't want to wait either. I added in here for because of George's the Return of the King's what was it, the 315 date. I went ahead and put Sivan 15, that's 315, and came up with all of these dates. Calendar number 4 is July 1st. Calendar number 5 is July 17th. I can't quite get that date to match up with any of these calendars, but that doesn't make me correct either. I am so open for anybody to look at these things and send me emails or comments and help me with this. This is posted in the community section here on YouTube. You can go in there for yourself and look at it. You can use it. You can download it. You can print it. You can make videos about it. I don't care. I'm not that type of person that thinks all this is mine. I believe all this came from God and is very shareable with everyone. You can go through it and see if I've made a mistake, or if you can add something or take something away. It's not the Bible, so you can add to it and take it away all you want. It is something that I've worked on for a very long time and tried to understand. So a lot of people are looking at Shavuot or Pentecost, and a lot believe that we've already passed it. If you were looking at the first 3 calendars, we in fact did pass. But we have not passed June 22nd, the 4th timeline, the Creator's calendar. June 22nd would be Shavuot. And again, I Googled it and I looked it up, and the Creator's calendar calls the first day of the year is April 17th because that was the first full moon after the equinox. So I believe all the calendars are accurate. And one thing about calendars is they don't change. They go from day to day to day to day. It's linear. It doesn't change. You don't bounce around. If I say this is January the 1st and on January the 20th is when something is going to happen, but it's going to happen on a Saturday 10 years ago or 10 years from now, what are we going to do? We're going to move January. We're going to call it January the 18th because Saturday doesn't fall on January the 20th, and we need it to fall on a Saturday, so you can't do that. That's literally not how this works. You don't get to do that. So it's linear. If the first day of the year is this day, you simply count forward. It's simple, and anyone can do it. So let's get back to all of these pictures and see why I took them all. What are we doing? This is Watchman on the Wall 88's favorite verse. Mine is John 6:44. His is this one. He reads it every time he starts a video, looking for that blessed hope and the glorious appearing of the great God and our Savior, Jesus Christ. It says it right here in Titus. Who is Jesus? He is God, who gave himself for us, that he might redeem us from all iniquity and purify unto himself a peculiar people. That's us. We're peculiar. We're different. We're looking for this, and we're digging deep and trying to figure this out. We aren't reading the surface, and we aren't running around doing good works trying to get ourselves into heaven. We know that we have fallen short. We have sorely fallen short, and we know the only way we're going to make it, only way we're going to make it is Jesus. There is nothing we've done. There's nothing spectacular about any one of us, but there's something very peculiar about all of us. Zealous of good works. Once you are saved, you will be full of good works, not good works unto salvation, but evidence of who you are. These things speak and exhort and rebuke with all authority. Let no man despise thee. There's going to be people who come in and they're very angry with you over these comments, but they are written in the Bible and they're clearly understood. Who's Jesus Christ? He is God. Period. Who are we? We are a peculiar people, but we are zealous of good works. We don't like sin anymore. We don't want anything to do with it. And if we do, break out in a cold sweat because we can't stand sin anymore. We don't like it. We don't want to be near it. We don't want it near us. So I found this, and again, this is the type of stuff that Steve Fletcher finds, and I don't. But I remember watching the debates with Donald Trump, making fun of John Kerry? Yeah, John Kerry, when he fell off a bike and broke his leg, and he said something to the effect of, I'm in my 70s, you won't catch me on a bike in my 70s, trying to get votes or something to that effect. I don't need to ride a bike to get that. And so there was a huge backlash. It's official, President Trump hates people that ride bikes. So at any rate, I found this, and you know why I found it. Because I read this, Donald Trump making fun of John Kerry for getting hurt. I put it in here so we had the dates that all these things happened. I believe he said something about John Kerry. I don't know where the date is, but it was Donald Trump. Oh, November the 3rd is when Donald Trump made this comment in 2015. Now, this is a Steve Fletcher thing again. I don't know how to put this stuff together. John Kerry actually had fallen on May 31st, 2015. November 3rd, 2015. 6 months, 5.5 months later, Donald Trump makes that comment about John Kerry. Oddly enough, Donald Trump had Tour de Trump. You remember Tour de France, where they have the bicycle race? Well, Donald Trump hosted Tour de Trump. He has been prideful of his name for quite some time. And the strange tale of Donald Trump's 1989 biking extravaganza. Here's Donald Trump in 1989. What is that, 30-something years ago, 33 years ago? And so Donald Trump does not have bikes, but he does hold a bicycle extravaganza back in the day. And of course, we're talking about it. Why? Because now that, again, that was 1989, and here we are, June 18th of 2022, and I saw the video. He didn't have a bike accident. He kind of fell over, but that happens when you get up there in age, and you're not as responsive as you were when you were younger. So don't hold that against him. But I thought it odd that here we have, again, a thing about bicycles and presidents and falling. I mean, there's something there. I just don't know what it is. I turned that over to Steve Fletcher to try to figure out what's in there about bicycles and presidents falling off of them or making comments on them. All right, let's move on from that. There are several versions here of this passage in Luke 21:9. I wanted to read to you to let you know that even though we're seeing these things happening right now and we expect that we should be gone, we're going to be snatched out of here at the last second. It is not going to be something that technically we're going to figure out approximately when this is going to happen, and I still feel like God's going to come and tell each one of us in our own way. To say dreams and visions, kids having dreams, I wholeheartedly believe in those dreams and visions of our young people. We get kind of skewed when we get older, but young people are their minds are wide open to these things. But there's a warning in here in Luke 21:9. It says these things must happen first, but the end will not come right away. There's several translations. Yes, these things must take place first, but the end won't follow immediately. Aaron over at God a Minute had a video on there about imminent. The rapture is not imminent. Let me repeat that. It is not imminent. The word imminent means that it's a date we can't figure out, and that's not true. There is a specific date that this rapture is going to occur that God pre-wrote from before the foundations of the world. He knew us because he's out of time. He's not stuck in our time. He can look into any time period we want. I believe when we get to heaven that we will be able to go throughout time and go into any event and stand there and watch the event unfold while they can't see us because we'll be, invisible to them. We can watch all of these events unfold and understand the language as it happens. I do something at work with a group of people on an assembly line type thing. And what I do while I'm on the assembly line, and this is the way I witness to them on the assembly line, is I tell them first, that do you believe in Jesus? Oh yeah, I believe in Jesus. I said, and they all do. They all believe in Jesus, but they don't have that personal relationship with him. And everybody's asking me, what's a sleepy church? That's the sleepy church. They don't have an intimate relationship. Depart from me, for I knew you not, is not a condemnation to hell. It is you're going through tribulation. You're going to get to know me. And the reason I tell as many people this as I can, not the bride. The bride, I'm just talking to the bride. Most of the people on here that watch are the bride. But every now and again, because of all the likes I got on that other video, this video wound up in someone's feed, and she sent me a comment saying, I don't know how you wound up in my feed, but I absolutely love what you're saying. I'm a Christian, but I didn't know all these things were going on. And I'm like, it worked. Like I said, like those videos. It gets the algorithm, it gets it out there, because if there's that many likes, then YouTube wants to put it over somewhere else so other people could see it. They don't know what Repo Man 64 stands for. They don't understand that. We're on the assembly line, and I'm talking to them, and I'm telling them how beautiful heaven is. And that's how I witness. I don't just go up, Jesus, if you don't, you're going to hell. I don't do it that way. Not even a little bit. I just did you know that Jesus died on the cross 2,000 years ago? Yeah, I know. I said, did you know that he went to heaven to build a mansion for you? Really? I said, yeah. I said, and then I take turns. I'm the supervisor, so I take turns. And I said, what does your mansion have? And I go down the list, and I wind up having 5 or 6 people just, my mansion's going to be out in the country, and I've got them involved in this. And then now when we're on the line, when we're in heaven, our animals, there's so many beautiful questions, wonderful questions about this mansion, in heaven. Mine's on the ocean. And my buddy that works with me, his is on the ocean too. He loves it. Actually, mine's on a lake. I don't want to be on the ocean. Too much turmoil there. I want to be on a lake. But others want to be out in the middle of the country with just a river running through. Others, some want to be in a high rise. They don't want to take care of a lawn. So it's a beautiful thing that maybe it helps you to spread the word of God by not condemning anyone. Not that you are. I'm not saying that, but that's a way to open a door with somebody and say, did you know that God went to prepare a place for us? And what is your place going to look like? And that gets them interested into searching for that. And they might go home and Google mansions in heaven and then find that and actually read words in the Bible. Did you know that one word out of the Bible can save someone? There are those that have been given very little, but very little is required of them. And there are those who've been given very much, and that's a scary place to be, honestly. Of those will a lot be required. Much will be required of those that know much. But your job, your dispensation, or what we are in now, the dispensation of grace, is to get that word out there. Let me get back to where I was. I did not want to make a long video. All right. So don't worry about it. It's coming. The end won't follow immediately, imminent. It won't be imminent. There's a date written. Down here at the bottom, the Berean Study Bible. These things must happen first, but the end is not imminent. Stop writing that. It's not imminent. I noticed something here now that tomorrow at 5 something, I think it's 5 p.m. here Eastern Standard Time, is exactly when the solstice happens, or what do they call that? The summer solstice, I believe is what it's called. Yeah, June 21st at 5 p.m. I found it pretty. Somebody put this in one. I watch a lot of videos, so I don't recall who. But if you count, and remember, Psalms 90:10 is not about us. It is about those 80 years, and that is for the Jew. Whatever happens, if we'd like to say, 7 years, and it might be, a few days past that, we don't know. But here we are, May 14th, 2029, when Israel becomes 81. If you count back, the 1260 and 1260 land squarely on June 21st, which is tomorrow. So who knows? There's a lot of good dates out there that are coming up, and we're going to keep watching. It's this passage right here, man. I tell you what, it is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. We have just been, I don't know any other matter in the Bible that has been researched as strongly as, when are you coming back? At the bottom, be ye therefore ready also, for the Son of Man cometh in an hour when you think not. Again, I don't think that's stating that we're not going to know. I think that's stating that there's a group of people on the planet that are looking at feast days, and I just have this unsettling feeling that it is not going to happen on a feast day. Same thing here in Matthew. That was Luke. This is Matthew. Therefore be ready also, for in such an hour as ye think not, the Son of Man cometh. It's almost like the Bible's telling us that all three events, the rapture, the gathering, and the return of Christ, will happen on a day when they least expect, not on a feast day. For I think not, the Son of Man cometh. And again in Mark, watch ye therefore, for ye know not when the Master of the house cometh, at even, or at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning. There it is, 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So 5:30 in the morning, literally 8 hours from now, 7 hours from now. No, not 8 hours from now, will be the solstice in the morning. Here are all the feasts: the spring moedims, and the fall moedim. You see all of them on there: Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, First Fruits, Festival of Weeks. What you don't see 3 days prior to the Festival of Weeks is the Ascension Day of Jesus Christ. You wouldn't see that on this. This is a day that no man would pick or choose, because it is not a feast day. Ascension Day is not a feast day. It's not represented here. 3 days later, after Jesus ascends, he says in the Bible very clearly, in yet a few days I will send you the Comforter. I do not believe they sat up in an upper room for 50 days waiting on the Holy Spirit. That's just almost 2 months sitting in a room. I don't see that. I believe that, like the Bible clearly says, in a few days I will send you the Comforter. And I believe that happened on Shavuot, which they're calling Pentecost, rightly so, because it is 50 days after the cross. 50 days after the resurrection. So go forward here. This is the calendar. One of the main reasons that I discovered that I tried to figure out why they're calling March 30th Nisan 1, or the first of Nisan lands right in the middle of March, which is March 30th. And that's what led me to find the equinox and the fourth star of Pegasus skirting along the horizon in Jerusalem every year on March the 16th. So you can see right there, the middle of March would be March the 16th for Nisan 1. That's why I was stuck on that for so long, and still kind of am. Ascension. Let's see, what do I have Ascension in here? I don't remember. Oh, just the fact that it's Ascension Day. It's written in all three Gospels. I'm sorry, it is. Oh, I see why. This is. There are two ascensions, and there is one return when we return with Jesus with a rod of iron to rule over the nations and to defeat Satan. There's only two groups that return. There's only two groups that ascend, and that is Luke, which is the bride, and Mark, which is the wife, or the sleepy church. We'll return, and the Jews will witness Jesus stepping on the Mount of Olives, and a great earthquake happening at that moment. The Jews, or the very end, the tribulation saints at the very end, will not go to heaven. Heaven will be still in another, away from earth, and it will not join with earth until the 1,000 years is complete. And then I believe the Jews are going to inhabit the millennium, and they will multiply. There'll be no pain in childbirth, so there'll be a lot of people to rule over there. And these people that come in there and say it's going to happen on the last trump. There's three things that happen here in this passage. There's a shout, there is the voice of an archangel, and there is the trumpet of God. There are three things that happen, not one. This is what everyone is using to state that there is no one going to heaven prior to the end of the 7 years, because when you read this, it shows that they're not coming till the last trump. And this is the passage right here that shows you there are three different events. There is a shout that's going to happen. There is the voice of the archangel, and at the end, when we return with Jesus to make war against the wicked and Satan and lock them up for 1,000 years, that is when the trump will go off. Okay. I am finished with all that. Let me get off here. I don't want to spend too much time. Go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody. Accept the Lord into your heart. I like the video because it definitely winds up in other people. I didn't know that until the comments started coming in, because I did a video that everybody liked. It got 20,000 or 16,000 views, and I wish they had all subscribed, or maybe they watched it twice. I don't know. But it wound up in somebody's feed that has nothing to do with religion, I guess, or watching for Jesus, and she was very appreciative, and I believe now she is a subscriber and is watching. And in my videos, you will hear me give out other channels' names on purpose, because I want as many of these channels to survive through the rapture as possible, so that the saints have something to fall back on, something to read, something to listen to. I don't believe there's going to be, the rapture is going to happen, and I think a great lie is going to go out, and a lot of bad things will go down, but I don't think that amongst all of that, they're going to find every YouTube. Have you seen our government? They are very organized. They're not going to find every YouTube video and pull them down that quickly. So some of us are going to make it through. Tim Foster, 405. You should subscribe to him. I love his channel. Just as I go through, I just think of anybody I can and comment on them. My friends that I call friends, Wackadoodle Samoan and Ken Potter. People I speak to on a continual basis. They're just awesome people, fearful of the Lord, and just want to get this information out there to everybody so that they can. All right, Repo Man 64. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll be back. I mean, could the event happen right now? Yes, it could. It could be on a day and an hour when we least expect. The best time for me is on a day where it's not a feast day, and it is the day Jesus ascended. Jesus is the head. We are the body. We have come past, just slightly past Israel becoming a nation, 74 years, but before the 81st anniversary in the 80th year of the 70 years before. So we're right in that window, and you'll see me if this doesn't happen anytime soon. You'll see me continue to try to figure this out and bring everything I can to you. Um, Not because I'm trying to give false hope, but honestly, I'm trying to get comments that help me see things so that we can figure this out together. We're all working on this together. We're all part of the body. Every single one of us is part of the body. If you think you're not doing enough, you're wrong. You're a different part of the body. Do your thing the way you do your thing, and don't worry about how somebody else does theirs. I've always been a little, not jealous, but kind of wish I could do this a similar thing when they're out street preaching. And those guys have courage, and gals. Those guys and gals have courage out there street preaching. Wow. And I like to stop and listen to them. They have courage. That's courage. Coming on here in front of my phone, that doesn't take as much courage as those guys on the street preaching. Or Watchman Adam. That's another one. His channel blew up. I mean, he's got a lot of followers now. And Watchman Adam has quite a testimony, and he's out there, and he does videos. He's out there bringing food and clothing to people that actually need it, that are just don't have anything. They're destitute. So he's doing the Lord's work in his way. He's amazing, you know. So just keep watching. We're almost home. We're almost home. Will it fall on one of these dates? I don't know. Will it happen in the next 2 seconds? I don't know. I would rather it happen in the next 2 seconds. I just want to go home. I just want to go home. So, anyway, ReaperMan64. We'll chat with you later.